Another month has come and gone, and I've read some comics. Let's dive right into what my favorite comics were from the past month. Let's talk Absolute Superman number 16, written by Jason Aaron and with artwork by Juan Ferreira. The origins of Absolute Hawkman are revealed as he kind of attempts to mentor Kal-El, even though it was kind of like a mentorship that Kal-El never really asked for. I gotta say, this issue was a blast. Hawkman's world-weary approach was kind of hilarious as he exposes all of Kal-El's inadequacies to him, like beatdown after beatdown after beatdown, until he doesn't. And when he doesn't, Juan Ferreira makes this book look so freaking good. The same energy and the same vibes that you got from TMNT, specifically in the biggest moments when he was working on that book. Yeah, he gets to bring that over with Absolute Superman, and there's a splash page on here that just works so freaking well as Absolute Superman just absolutely nails Hawkman and delivers him through building after building after building through the street. It is so awesome to look at, man. Visually, just a feast for the eyes, man. It works so well. Maybe I kind of want Ferreira on an Absolute book. If we can get that delivered somewhere, I'm not even sure if I care what hero it is, but I want that, and I want it long-standing. So if you can deliver on that, make that happen, DC, because this issue was just an absolute blast. I had such a good time with it. The writing, by the way, with Jason Aaron, the dialogue was just whip smart, and the back and forth from these two characters from very different places in their life absolutely worked. Make sure you check this one out. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk DC KO Night Fight number 4, written by Joshua Williamson with artwork by Dan Mora. Batman learns the true motive, behind the Heart of Apocalypse while doing battle with his son Damian. And everything kind of comes to a boiling point and to a culmination between all of the universes and all of the things that Bruce has had to put himself through within the outskirts of the DC KO event. And I can't believe this, but I loved this issue. Sure, it was a bit snappy, but whatever, it felt right for the story. It was a very breezy issue, and if anything, this is the pitch perfect example as to why to not just dump a series or a mini series because you had one issue that didn't necessarily work. I didn't like issue number 1. In fact, it really rubbed me the wrong way, and I didn't like where they were going with it. But issue 2 got better, and issue 3 got better, and issue 4 was the best amongst the bunch. Joshua Williamson really, at the end of the day, crafted this really heartfelt story for Bruce and the family that he has crafted, and really made, it was an eye-opening experience for the reader through looking through the eyes of Bruce Wayne himself and seeing the sons that he has brought up and all of the qualities he's imbued them with and all of the individuality that they bring to the table themselves. It was a really, really cool issue, and getting to see this old man Bruce character interact with people that he's never interacted with and may never interact with again really just made this a heartwarming story that was still filled with action and excitement. And Mora, let's not forget Dan Mora is on this book, right? Because holy cow, his enthusiasm really shines through here. There's some subtle visual cues that I feel wouldn't have made that he wouldn't have made a year ago. I feel he's growing as an artist still, and that's incredibly exciting because his storytelling mechanisms are getting better and better the more he is on comics. Let's keep going, Mora. Let's keep going, Williamson. I can't believe it, but this was absolutely worthy of top comic of the week. Let's talk Bleeding Hearts number 1, written by Dennis Camp with artwork by Stephen Morian. So, zombies have overtaken the world, and they're the majority, right? But a zombie named Poke feels the oddest sensation in his chest, and it's his heart beating. I wasn't sure what to expect from this book, but it was the team behind 20th Century Men, so I was kind of a predetermined thing that it was going to be an add to my pull list, but I definitely wasn't expecting something as light and fun as what we got. Poke and his friend are just kind of hanging out, they're getting a bite to eat. That happens to be human flesh. They're talking about their quote-unquote life, and it's all just charming in this really weird way. Stipian also has one of the most unique looks in comic books, and it just works really, really well. I love the dynamic that Dennis and Stippen have with anything that they work on, but particularly right here, I feel like his artistic approach really works with the lighthearted nature of the narrative, and when it needs to be gross, it can still really easily get to the gross part from a medical standpoint. That it is, there's a lot of hearts and flesh in this book, as to be expected with zombies. But I gotta say, for the kickoff of Vertigo proper with a new #1, Bleeding Hearts, I feel like really is setting the tone that gets me excited that they're back and that Vertigo is back in our lives again. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Absolute Wonder Woman Annual #1, written by Kelly Thompson with artwork by Madia De Luis. Diana is reeling from her short time in which she took on the form of the Medusa when she had fought the Tetracide, and she was looking for some kind of way to best that beast, right? But she has to call upon the help of Athena to kind of set right the injustice that was eons in the making. All right, DC, you've made annuals this thing, right? This thing that is incredibly special and unique and like really bold. This issue was excellent. I don't think I'll ever tire of Diana's unending conviction for compassion, right? That's the driving motivation for this character. The way she's able to recontextualize how Medusa must feel, being that she can never share a moment looking eye to eye with another being, is something I've never even considered, like not just from the realm of Wonder Woman, but from Greek mythology, from learning all that stuff when I was a child back in elementary school. I'd never even thought of something like that. It's so hard to fathom, but in this book, it makes it so easy to see how, I don't know, there's something like that. It's just a misunderstanding, right? And it's a misunderstanding that can turn into a monstrosity so quickly without having that level of understanding that Diana is conveying right here. It's also cool seeing how fallible the gods can be, and how when proven wrong through understanding and empathy, we can see some rights being made here and some mistakes being corrected much, much later on here. So Absolute Wonder Woman, the annual, is definitely not a book you can skip. This is following along with the same line of like Absolute Batman's annual being just like this top tier comic. This is no different, and it's absolutely worthy of top comic of the week. Let's talk Absolute Batman #17, written by Scott Snyder with artwork by Eric Canetti. Bruce has been abandoned by his friends. The world views Batman now as a hero after the events of the previous arc with Bane, and he doesn't know how to move forward. But the best way forward is through, and Pamela Isley is standing right in his way. This was such a well-paced and executed story. It really struck this perfect balance of introspection from Bruce and even the friend group and Pamela, and the action and suspense and surprise as Batman kind of traverses this building and tries to, kind of finally, come face to face with one of the people who are directly responsible for the Arc M projects. Totally well done, man. It was a perfectly paced issue. What else was well done is Canetti on artwork. Good lord, this was a feast for the eyes. And it was really gruesome too, right? This Ivy is straight out of a horror movie, right? This is not what you get from the covers necessarily. And I think that's a great surprise to kind of keep in their back pocket as it's revealed within the pages of this book. I was a huge fan of Canetti from way back in the day. Like, remember Blogspots? And do you remember, like, even before Tumblrs? Yeah. I was following his stuff way back then, so it's really cool now to see the artist of things like Arc Athena work on things like Absolute Batman. I can see him having his own Absolute book and being on art duties if that was something that he chose to do. That would be totally awesome. But what is even more awesome right now is just that we're living in the reality where he's drawing an Absolute Batman book right here and right now. This was a fantastic issue that was kinetic, hyper-focused on the characters that were in play, and it really pushes that plot forward. I loved Absolute Batman. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Ultimate Spider-Man #24, written by Jonathan Hickman with artwork by Marco Cacchetto and David Messina. So Peter gets to go hand to hand with the Kingpin finally. Harry has to come face to face with the consequences of what's happened between him and Gwen and the greater Mysterio organization, and Richard and Felicia learn a lesson in responsibility. I was so ready to be let down here, right? If I'm being fully honest, I was so ready to kind of like put this aside as a book that I just kind of had a preconceived notion about. I had built up this level of bummed out in my head. And that's partially because the ending of the Ultimate Universe has been a little bit messy, but it's mostly because I think it was almost like a defense mechanism. I haven't enjoyed a Spidey book consistently as much as I have enjoyed this book since, heck, I mean, maybe even the previous iteration of an Ultimate Spider-Man book back when Bendis was writing Peter and then Miles. And now that's gone. But what a way to go out. We get a pretty satisfying conclusion to most of the ideas that have been played with throughout the last 23 issues here, and the artistic quality of this book has never really dipped for me between Marco and David. And as fans, we got exactly what we've been asking for from the Parker family. Narratively, this works. Emotionally, this works. Visually, can you guess where I'm going with this? Yeah, it absolutely works. I love the resolution here. It does feel a little bit divorced from the Ultimate Endgame event that's happening, but I'm almost kind of happy about that because we get this series and we get it to kind of be its own thing and we get it to see a satisfying ending that can live on. So I'll take that for all it's worth here. This book was absolutely worthy of Top Comic of the Week. Let's talk The Peril of the Brutal Dark, an Ezra Kane mystery #1, written by Chris Condon with artwork by Jacob Phillips. This week, I gotta say, like, the Top Comic, it's almost like a 1A, 1B kind of thing here. I loved this issue. Detective Ezra Kane is hired to take on dual cases. One to investigate this missing Greek artifact, and another to find a husband whose wife believes he was taken by this shadowy organization. By the way, he worked for the museum where that Greek thing was taken. I had a smile on my face from like the jump of this book. I love the Indiana Jones feel that this is playing with the history and the mythology and the way that they're tied together in such a great way that it feels very natural. This has all the makings of a great noir story with adventurous tones. This was originally released on Condon and Phillips's Patreon here, so this has been gestating for a long time, which might be the reason why it feels so like kind of dialed in and mature. But I have to say, it blew my mind because when I was reading this, I kept saying to myself, "Wow, this feels like a level up. This feels like a new version of these people." And it's like these creators did this 4-5 years ago at this point. It just goes to show the things that we don't even know we were missing in our lives, and this is one of those issues. This seems like the very first Vertigo premiere that really blew me away. I'm excited to see where they go from here. Definitely pick this up. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk The Power Fantasy #16, written by Kieran Gillen with artwork by Casper Wingard. So this is how the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a hellhole portal stuffed with influence-feeding pyramid dwellers? Sure, why not? Here's the great thing about this series. It keeps you on your toes. It gleefully delivers excellence while turning your expectations on their head. I never would have expected some of the storytelling mechanisms to take place with each and every one of these issues. It's a great way because it's being written, like I said before, in a single issue format that like delivers these cliffhangers over and over and over. This issue delivers arguably the biggest cliffhanger that we've gotten in this series so far. It makes you recontextualize everything that we've gotten here as characters like Valentina become even more pivotal than they were previously and become a catalyst for everything that's happening here. And I have to say, this might be Casper's biggest swing on this issue. It's incredible to get to see him play with things that we've never seen before, or maybe seen glimpses. We knew that there was basically a depression kaiju that's been lingering in the background of this entire series, and it's like the gun that hasn't gone off. It's been mentioned in Act 1. Well, we're in Act 3 now, and that gun goes off in a big bad way. You need to check this out. This is the end of a large swath of the series, right? This is kind of set up what comes after. So if you haven't read Power Fantasy, this is the best opportunity you have to play catch up, because it was absolutely worthy of top comic of the week.